Happy Testicle Tuesday. We are live here with the Fantasy Football Buzz podcast. As usual, Tuesday nights, Sunday mornings, you've got Cyclop. Let me see, am I pointing the right direction? Over there, we've got 2020 down there. Guys, it is the beginning of week 3. What an incredible week 2 if you weren't a Dolphin fan. But fantasy-wise, so much going on. The primetime games have just been off the hook.
Yeah.
Guys, this is a great time. I mean, this is football season.
The only problem with today is it's Tuesday and we still have 2 more days until football.
Oh, I thought about that.
We can deal with that.
I just
pick up Tuesday.
I just got breaking news. The 2 running backs that the 49ers just brought into camp are already injured.
They were injured before they brought him in. They just bring him in that way now.
They got injured on the bus on the way to camp.
And more breaking news, Keith just picked them up for $30 each.
$32.
$32 each.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Now, speaking of which, tonight, one of the things we're going to be going over is who to pick up, who to drop, who's in your roster that doesn't need to be there, who are you panicking on, right? Who are you freaking out about, and who should you say, just chill. Don't worry about it. It's only the second week.
Relax.
You know, it's going to get to a point, though, where we're going to say, you can't say it's only the 4th week, right? Like, it's going to get to a point where we're going to say, okay, time to say goodbye. Like, I might say goodbye to Koo this week, believe it or not.
Koo,
so,
what?
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, there's a lot going on. But
it's not his fault, but they can't score.
Correct. It's not his fault that Atlanta has such an anemic offense this year. But let's do this. Let's digress a little bit and talk about what happened last week, because every week we come in, we don't always agree, right, on everything. So this week we're going to go over some of the stuff and see who made the dollars this week, right? So it's a segment called Who Made the Dollars. In the meantime, give us a call, 772-800-BUZZ, or comment YouTube Live, Facebook Live. We will get right to your questions as they come up on the air. Guys, let's Brad, I know you're keeping track of the questions of the week.
So we had $3 bets last week.
Okay.
So here they are. We had Juju or Christian Kirk. Okay. And 2020 and Commish went with Juju and Brad went with Kirk. Well, you guys won out on this one, not because of his receiving yards, but because he had a one rush for 3 yards and a touchdown. So that gave him about 10 points for the week.
It doesn't matter why.
Whatever.
It doesn't matter why.
Yeah.
I owe you each $1 for that.
Damn right.
Where's my $2?
Then we had Debo and Cup. We had 2 Debos, 1 Cup.
That's right.
Keith, 2020, and Brad went with Debo, and the guy who has Cup on his team went with Cup.
I have the Cup.
But it was not even close. It was 27 points to 10. Okay, yeah, Cup absolutely went off. So I'm now $2. $2. Commish is
halfway to a cup of coffee.
All right. The last one is Henderson and Mitchell. Well, we know where 2020 went on this one. Absolutely. He would have put $1,000 on Mitchell if he could.
And he would put 32, but yes.
So Henderson was myself, Cyclop, and Commish, and 2020 was Mitchell, and that was 14 points to 5 points, depending on your scoring system.
Points. He had almost 8.
Depends on your scoring system. Either way, he lost. So Commish, we each owe Commish $2.
I'm 3-0, but $2.
You're 3-0.
I'm 3-0,
and we're both
no
1 and 2.
Tuesday for Cyclop. Seriously.
What?
No, he's right. You each owe $2. No, 3. Well, no, because you each were wrong, right, every time.
Yeah. So
He's
there you go.
Used to being wrong. Well, listen, I think we've got our number 1 fan on the phone right now, Kenneth, live from Texas. How are you tonight?
By the way, I'm paying you with Royal Caribbean cruise ship So next time you go on a cruise,
I called in to y'all. I know y'all usually enjoy hearing from me.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's going on tonight?
As far as my question of the night, who do y'all consider being the best and worst of week 2? And secondly, I did put in a claim for one Cordero Patterson.
We'll be talking about running backs to pick up, and he will definitely be a part of that.
yep.
All right. So as far as best and worst of week 2, I mean, you can just look at the fantasy points and say who did the best, but there are some things that stood out, right? Like Kyler Murray now, 2 weeks in a row, has been the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football.
MVP right now, NFL.
Yeah.
He's
Right
the
now-
Josh Allen of last year.
Yeah, he really is.
Sure.
So there's no denying how well he's playing. Everybody expected him to do well. I don't know if they expected him to do that well.
Right.
And I have, since we're talking quarterbacks, I have to throw Lamar Jackson out there. 35.
You know what? I understand that. And Lamar Jackson he didn't do as well as Stafford week 1. He did better than him week 2.
I wasn't bringing that. I was not bringing that up.
If there's a quarterback that's out there right now, Tom Brady. At 44
I was just going to say,
years old,
how are you not talking about Brady?
I don't talk about Brady.
Now that he's off New England again.
How about, 9 touchdowns in 2 weeks? Gronk. How about, you want to talk about the best? Someone that wasn't even drafted in most snake drafts, or maybe picked up in the 14th or 15th round. 4 touchdowns in 2 weeks. The ageless wonder, Rob Gronkowski. It is insane.
I'm still like a river in Egypt when it comes to Tom Brady. Okay.
We're both trying to figure out that metaphor, but okay.
No, I'm in denial.
Oh, denial. Okay, got it.
Wait, 2020's on tonight.
Do you have to evacuate the Buzz Podcast facility? I hear
no,
the
I have a
alarm.
Jewish wife. We use a smoke alarm as a timer in my house when cooking. I don't know what to tell you.
That's brilliant.
Do you have a smoke detector right above where your stove is?
I have it on mute. It's a defective smoke detector, which will stop in just a moment.
Okay. All right. That's fine. All right, Kenneth.
I got a QB that might top it as best performer this week.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers. He was fun to watch last night, wasn't he?
Well, way more fun than the week before.
Just over 25 points in fantasy.
Yep. Yeah, no, Aaron.
Luckily enough, I started him.
That's great.
But I should have started Brady, but I didn't. I ended up starting Aaron Rodgers.
Well, he definitely had a good week. There's no doubt about that. Kenneth, we appreciate it. We're going to talk more about quarterbacks in a second because we're going to talk about waiver pickups and which quarterbacks, which running backs, receivers, tight ends, who to pick up this week. So, Kenneth, we appreciate the question of the night, and we are – there we go. I'm sorry about that. We appreciate the question of the night. Anybody else that has any questions, give us a call, 772-800-BUZZ, or you can comment on YouTube Live or Facebook Live. We will get right to your questions. In the meantime, guys, let's jump right into these waivers. All right. So want to start with quarterbacks. We were just talking about quarterbacks. We were talking about Aaron Rodgers. Oh, by the way, before we get to that, I asked you last week, and I don't remember if you guys did or not, but last night, were you guys watching the Peyton and Eli Manning show, or were you watching the?
Yes, I didn't get to watch the whole game, but when I was watching, I put it on there, and they were fantastic.
It is unbelievable.
It is so much more entertaining to watch that and Monday Night Football with the guests they had on, with hearing some stories.
Yep.
I mean, it was Pat McAfee was on. I saw
if they can get McAfee as a permanent host.
Well, he does a show.
I know he does, but for Monday Night Football, he's just insane, and he's so good at what he does.
It was very enjoyable watching that, and just when they break down the plays, when they're, it's, I don't know if you remember a long time ago, there was a system called NTN, and it was QB1, and you got to call the plays before they happen.
Oh, right, yes.
That's what it was like watching that. It was like, oh, it's going to be a RPO here or something, and sometimes they were right and sometimes they were wrong, but it was great to see them break down the plays. I
can do without Eli. I really don't think he adds anything at all. All he does is repeat what Peyton says.
He's a Manning, so it's the brother, so I get it, but
he's a Manning, I get it. That's what Eli does. All he does is repeat what was just said, and it's so annoying. Because Peyton Manning will like, so Eli, if you got the two safeties down, far, you think they're gonna run it? Yeah, I think they're gonna run it. All right, good, really good analysis. But Peyton's spot on, man. Peyton and it's like, what did he put down last? Oh, he put down the New England Patriots last night, talking about in the showers how he couldn't talk about the game in the showers because he was listening to. They were bugged.
You know what I find interesting? I know Peyton went to Tennessee and Eli played in New York, but they were both born and raised in the same household. How do they have different accents?
Yeah. Especially,
they lived in New York for a long time.
Well, I don't know, because Eli even went to college. They both went to college in the South as well. Right. So they were raised in the South, went to college in the South. I don't know. But I'm going to watch all season, and especially, I hope they continue this, because when it gets to the Dolphin Monday night game in December, I'm looking forward to hearing that.
So, Commish, tell our listeners, how do you get to watch that audio broadcast?
That's on ESPN too. So when the Monday Night Football game is broadcast on ESPN, just go to ESPN2. You get to see the Peyton and Eli show, and they're watching the game with 1,000 monitors. They have views that we don't have. So they're able to see the plays they're able to see the views from the end zone. So they know how people are lined up. It's so interesting to watch. But
awesome.
All right. That being said, we're going to jump into the waivers. We're going to talk about quarterbacks. And guys, I say this every single week. If your quarterback is playing against the Atlanta Falcons, you start them. The problem is this quarterback is available in most leagues, so most people don't have him on their roster. And I'm talking about Danny Dimes. If you need a quarterback to stream this week, I don't know how he's going to be the rest of the year. He's put up some good numbers. He's shown some things, but they're playing against Atlanta. So, but I'm just going to throw a number out there, guys. Do you know how many passing touchdowns Atlanta's already given up? 2 games?
I would probably say 8.
8 is exactly right. 8. So now Danny Dimes comes in. He can run. He can throw. Look, his numbers would have been even more incredible if you watched the game the other night had they caught the passes he was throwing, or there wasn't a penalty that brought it back. So you're looking for a good streamer this week, go with Danny Dimes.
Isn't that how many wins he has in his career?
Probably. And the good thing is you don't have to worry about wins in fantasy football as far as the quarterback. So, he could lose every game as long as he's giving you 25 fantasy points every game, he'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, the other night against Washington, he had 249 passing and 95 rushing.
Yeah.
And that's a good defense.
And a passing and a rushing touchdown. I mean, that's a good game.
And I don't know if you guys were watching, but there was this one play where he was just running right down the field, and I thought we were going to have a repeat of the turf monster
when he tripped. Right?
Oh my God! Next to the butt fumble, that's one of the best highlights in football. So
for people that don't believe in paranormal activity, we witnessed it on live TV when he tripped for no reason. Right. That was a ghost.
Absolutely right. With the butt fumble, that was caused by Sanchez, but this was caused by nobody.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question. Brad, you got the touchdown question right with Atlanta, but here's the other question. Which quarterback in the NFL leads the league right now in passing yards?
Derek Carr.
Derek Carr is correct, and he is available in 80% of leagues right now. Derek Carr is 817 passing yards. He also leads the league in passing attempts, not just yards. So it's not just a few bombs. He's throwing the ball constantly.
And of those 817 passing yards, Darren Waller has 815 of them.
Although Ruggs, he's been coming on too.
Waller had a good first week, not a good second week.
That's true.
Right.
That is. Yeah.
And the most interesting thing is he was playing against two of the league's best defenses. So people might be saying right now, oh, but he's playing against Miami with Byron Jones and with Xavier Howard. It doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't matter who he plays against. He's going to throw. That's the game plan. Yeah. Pick up Derek.
Derek Carr did what Josh Allen couldn't. Made Pittsburgh's defense look bad.
That's true. Yeah, and I dread what's going to happen with Miami this week in Vegas.
So I'll be at that game. But it is amazing watching that team play right now. The system put in is around Derek Carr at this point. And that's what he needed. It took a little bit of time for Gruden to, get the right people and everything. But you can see that is flourishing right now through two games.
It's not just the offense. They've got a really good front seven as well. And by the way, they're doing this with a banged-up Josh Jacobs. This is with Kenyon Drake and
Peyton
God, I'm forgetting the veteran they brought in. Peyton Barber. Exactly.
And a terrible offensive line that everyone thought was the worst in football. But, hey, kudos to them. Kudos to Chucky. Things are going well in Vegas.
That's right.
All right, so my third and final quarterback to look for on the waiver wire. If I were to tell you that there's a quarterback out there who's 2-0, has a 77% completion rate with 0 interceptions.
I know.
Sam Darnold.
Why
wouldn't you have him on your team? No, it's not Sam Darnold. Do not do that to me. It's Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy B. He has the second best completion rate in the league. Of course, it's all about his weapons, right? I know he lost Jerry Jeudy, but he still has Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick's coming on, Noah Fant, and 2 pass-catching running backs who you never know from week to week who's going to do what. So we all know the stats with Teddy B, but what the most important thing to understand this week is that they play against the New York Jets.
Right.
All right. And now look, in all fairness, the Jets' defensive backfield has been doing well. They're not necessarily the worst, but I think we're going to see a lot of Teddy B this weekend. If you need a quarterback, Teddy B, Derek Carr, Danny Dimes, go out, grab them, take them for your fantasy team. Whether it's just this week or for the future, grab them now. Let's jump into running backs.
All right. Well, I got to tell you, there ain't a ton out there with running backs, but there are a couple interesting names to look at. One of them was actually just met.
Can we
what's
slow
that?
down first? Just hang on. So we do actually have a couple questions that came in.
Yeah, go for it.
Why don't we look at that? It says here from Michael, there's a guy with Mahomes and Lamar on his bench and wants a big return for Lamar, who's rotting on his bench. SMH. Dude's cock blocking the whole league.
What was that?
Okay, there's a guy with Mahomes and Lamar on his bench and wants a big return for Lamar, who's riding on his bench. Dude's cock blocking the whole league.
What is one of the best questions I've ever had on our show?
The fact that he was able to draft Mahomes and
that's crazy.
And Jackson.
Yeah, really.
I mean, good for him. It's not, it's not that he should be asking for a lot right now. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
you got to pay to play.
I'm curious, to get those two players, you had to give up something on either the running back or wide receiver side. Michael, let us know, are you looking for a wide receiver? Are you looking for a running back? The problem is when it comes to quarterbacks is there's usually a lot, unless you're in a super flex, there's usually a lot of them available that people can stream. I mean, I just went through 3 quarterbacks, all of which are going to get you 20 plus points this week.
Right.
So people aren't that ready to give up a lot a rare position like running back, even though, he's completely worth it. It's going to be difficult.
Lamar's rise right now has been because they don't have any running. I mean, they do have 3 running backs that they're spreading in there, but he's still the best running back on the team.
He always has been.
And, right. Even before Dobbins got hurt. But it's amazing because really Mark Andrews, it's like he's got 2 receivers, right? Andrews and Brown, and that's it. And him. It's like that's the team. If they can put in Latavius Murray and Williams and whoever else they have, bringing in at running back, just get them a few yards, they're doing the rest.
Yeah.
And it's working. It worked.
Yeah, so, it's going to be tough to get something for him. I mean, think about this. You're going to have if you're in a 10-person league.
Okay, so he did right here. It was a keeper. Okay, so he kept Lamar from last year and drafted Mahomes with his first pick, which I understand because Lamar didn't have a great year last year, right? And if it's depending on the league.
It must be a quarterback-heavy league. The scoring must be.
But let me ask you this, okay? Here's a scenario. Would you give up a top running back or a top receiver for Lamar if you have one of the top 10 quarterbacks right now? Because most likely your teammates have a top 10 quarterback, right? Because I understand people are going to draft more than one quarterback, but you only start one quarterback. So your top 10 quarterbacks are probably on somebody's roster.
Right.
They're not necessarily going to give up somebody and that quarterback to get Lamar. You can keep trying. If it's a keeper league, you don't have to give up on him necessarily. Or I don't know if you can trade draft picks for the future. But, I don't know what you're going to get for him, but we'll be happy to analyze any trade offers that you get.
He said he offered Herbert and Sutton for Lamar, and he wouldn't.
Wow.
So, you're trying to sell Sutton high, right? Because he had a huge week, and he's going to be he's looking like he's going to be the guy there, especially with Judy out.
It's not you, it's somebody else. I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
So,
he's an idiot. He's a complete idiot then.
That's not an entirely unfair trade, by the way.
No, not at all.
And Sutton, with the way Bridgewater is playing for Lamar Jackson, I don't think that's terribly unfair.
Yeah, especially in a keeper league when you can hold on to Herbert for the future.
I think that's a very fair trade. Obviously, the guy doesn't see it that way, and I wouldn't go much more than that because I wouldn't give up on Herbert. Herbert's going to be great, and I think Sutton is going to blow up for the race. Sutton was phenomenal until he got injured last year. This was the number one guy. I know Judy's there, but with Judy gone, I love Sutton the rest of the way. So I wouldn't do anything. Keep Herbert and Sutton. You're going to be fine.
Okay. Let's get to this other question. Sorry, we want to get people. Oh, sorry, I put that in. Should I be worried about Gibson or Hopkins? Hopkins is competing with 3 other guys, and I just don't know.
No, I worried, panic. No. First of all, Hop is still the number 1 wide receiver there, despite the fact that he's throwing the ball to Christian Kirk and to Moore. I wouldn't be too concerned about it. He still has the fantasy points and will continue to. They have that chemistry. I'm not worried about him. As far as Gibson, he's still taking the lion's share of carries in that backfield. It's just a matter of matchups right now. Obviously, the whole game plan had to change from week to week between Fitzy and Heineke. So things were just a little off kilter there. I think moving forward, we're going to continue to see the kind of game plan that they expected from the beginning, which was having Gibson as the guy. He is the human joystick. So quite frankly, I wouldn't worry about either one of them. If I was in your league, I would be offering players to get those guys because now people would be down.
Buy low.
Right. It was a little annoying to watch McKissick get some goal line carries and do some damage, but that was also happening last year when Gibson was a top 10 running back. So could not agree more. Don't panic on those guys. Good to go. Gibson and Hopkins are going to be Gibson and Hopkins. Absolutely.
So should he trade Kyler Murray and Hopkins or Ridley for Tyreek Hill and Patty? You mean Pat Mahomes?
Maybe Cordell Patterson.
Wait, Kyler Murray? No, I would not do. Oh, oof, wow. Pat Mahomes
Murray
and Hill
and Hopkins.
for Murray and
You know,
Hopkins.
here's the thing. I think it would be a fair trade. I just don't know if you're really going to get enough out of it
Yeah, why
to make it worthwhile.
No, I would keep Murray with how he's so hot right now and keep that combo.
Yeah,
that's what
I agree. That's just right now the way
Mahomes.
that offense is playing, the way that they're scheming, you know, and you're getting all the rushing touchdowns out of Murray as well in those rushing yards. Not that Mahomes is a slouch. I would not make that trade either.
Yeah, I would hold where you are. Okay, we have another one here. Can I trust CEH at RB2?
So we're gonna talk about this on players to panic and players to hold your ground on. CEH for me is press the panic button. Absolutely, I didn't like him going into the season. I had to take him in one of my leagues just based on where he was and where it fell. But yes, I absolutely am pushing you can't sell him though, because there's nothing to get in return for him right now unless you're playing with absolute putzes. So you have to ride this out. There's not much you can do unless you're going to package him with someone else to fulfill a need. But I'm telling you right now, based on his usage, based on the lack of his usage in the passing game, I am panicking on CEH.
Okay, but that's not the question. And I agree with you, Keith, by the way. I agree that you should start panicking on him, not to the extent that you're going to drop him, but I would definitely start panicking. But the question is, are you starting him as an RB2 in week 3 in a PPR? The answer is yes. I actually have him ranked 18th moving into week 3. So they're playing against the Chargers. I don't – at 18, he's an RB2, right? Borderline RB3, depending on how many teams are in your league. So – for PPR, yes, I would start him. I'm starting him over people like Gaskin or Hunt or, Tyson Williams, Elijah Mitchell, right? I mean, these are guys that you would say, okay, those are my RB2s or my flexes. I'm putting CEH in there. I don't know what your alternatives are, but it's not like he's a part-time running back.
And that's the whole thing. If you have alternatives, I mean, he's averaging, not even 3. He's averaging 3.3 yards a carry. He hasn't broken 50 yards. We know they throw the ball. He did have the fumble last week. Is that going to affect some of his carries going forward? We don't know. Is Andy Reid, sometimes he can get like that, sometimes he can't. They do have Williams there. Go ahead.
No, in a lot of leagues where there's a flex, like there's a league where I have Chubb, I have Hilaire as my RB. I love Chubb as my RB2. And then I have, I think, like Henderson. So honestly, this week, I am not playing Hilaire. I'm going to put Henderson in because they're saying, provided he's going to play, they said his injury looks fine, as my RB2. And in my flex, I think I have either Marvin Jones or someone else. I'm literally going to bench Edwards-Hilaire over a Henderson and go in with the receiver that I trust more. And that's why I don't trust him as an RB2. If you have another running back and a good wideout to put in your flex, I'm telling you right now, I don't have him that high. I think a lot of other running backs are going to outdo him.
So there you have it. 2020 is benching him this week, so start him.
Exactly.
Yes, everywhere. Started everywhere.
Who do you think? Hold on. You think Henderson is going to do better than CEH this coming week?
If Henderson plays, and granted, I know it's against Tampa and that incredible stout run defense. I'm well aware of that. Hilaire is that bad. That's how bad he is in that offense. If Henderson plays, yes, more fantasy points for Henderson. So I can give you another freaking dollar because for
write
whatever
it down,
reason,
Brad.
CEH
will have more points than Henderson.
I'm going with CEH this week.
Both going to CEH. They're playing the Chargers, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, what's a dollar to you? Well, Breck, I hope we answered your question on that. Don't panic yet, unless you're 2020. Pick up Elijah Mitchell. We'll go to the next question.
$32 is all it's going to take.
The question is panic or hold my ground on Antonio Brown. It depends on your ground, right? Antonio Brown is going to be a wide receiver 3, possible flex. The fact is they've got 4 receivers in Tampa Bay that are all going to get the same amount of catches, and that's not even with Scotty Miller. So, I'm not panicking on Antonio Brown, but you most likely didn't get him until later in the draft.
Right.
It's just that if you're holding on to him, hoping he's going to have a week 1 revival every week, I doubt that's going to happen. I also doubt that he's only going to get 1 catch for 7 yards or whatever it was like he had last week every week as well. It's just you never know, and that's the problem. If you have somebody on your roster that is more consistent, you're going to start them. They may not have as much of a ceiling, right, guys? But they probably don't have as low of a floor.
Right. Antonio Brown's going to be this guy who it's going to kind of be boom or bust, right? It's in Tampa. It's almost like you're going to feel like it's the flavor of the week, right?
No different than what's going on in Pittsburgh.
Right. Mike Evans didn't do anything week 1, had a huge week 2. Antonio Brown had a huge week 1. So,
right.
Brady, that offense is ridiculous right now. Brady could basically throw it to whoever he wants. They can't cover that many people, and he just has so many options.
And like Commish said, you drafted him as a wide receiver 3 or a flex. Very similar to the situation in Pittsburgh with Claypool, Johnson, and Juju. What's the flavor going to be? Or very similar in Seattle, where it's the DK Lockett show. Lately, it's been Lockett. So he is what he is. Nothing to panic on there.
Don't panic.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Don't
so
panic.
This is probably the best question of the night so far that we have here, right? Another one from Michael. I have another question. Herbert versus KC or Carr versus Miami?
Oh my God.
That's like one of those good problems to have, right?
The only reason I would say Herbert in this case, and again, I'm not being a homer about the whole thing with Carr versus the Dolphin defense. I know what the Dolphin defense has given up, but the difference is Miami is not going to get into a shootout.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And Kansas City is. So you're going to have a shootout with the Chargers in Kansas City where they're just going to be going back and forth all game, which is more opportunities, more yards, more touchdowns for Herbert, where you might see a lot of running from Kenyon Drake or Jacobs, depending on who the flavor of the week is. You're going to get some yards from Carr. You're going to get a couple touchdowns from Carr. I just think that the ceiling with Herbert is much higher.
And I agree with you as well, because KC is explosive. Although it is interesting, I do remember last year in this game, I think it was a primetime game, the Chargers won and stifled that Kansas City offense because these two teams know each other so well. But you can't. I happen to agree. It's going to be a shootout, and I don't think Carr is going to have to explode against Miami. Unfortunately, they're just not going to score enough points.
Yeah, and we're going to have a consensus on this one, and we know how that goes, right? We're going to all agree on that, and then it's
not going to
probably be the complete opposite. But on paper and everything in front of you says go with Herbert.
All right. So if you want to have your questions answered like we did with everyone else that we've talked about so far, give us a call at 772-800-BUZZ. It is toll free. Do they even have toll? Is toll free even a thing anymore? Because aren't all calls free at this point?
Well, you just pay for your service.
You pay for your service. So yeah, give us a call. We're not in Croatia or anything, and where you can make a comment in the comment section, and we will get right to your questions live on the air. We will break right into our programming to answer your question. And speaking of programming, who's got running backs this week?
I have running backs. So
all right,
we're going to start with, and I can't believe this number is accurate, but he's only owned in 48.6% of leagues in ESPN, and that's Tony Pollard. And this is always a guy that's drafted as a handcuff, so I'm surprised it's less than 50%. And, Zeke isn't hurt, but this is now a 1A, 1B situation. Pollard went off for 13 attempts, 109 yards and a touch, 3 targets, 3 grabs, and 31 yards. And, to me, what's unbelievable, he looks like the better back. He looks like the more explosive back running behind the same offensive line. So if Pollard is available, you can fire him up much like you would a Kareem Hunt. That second running back in an offense that is featuring 2 backs right now, like a Jamal Williams and a DeAndre Swift, what have you. So he's available. You're going to want to go after him. Alexander Madison.
Can I mention something about Pollard? right? So late in that game, from what I saw, it was Pollard in crunch time, and not Zeke. And what does that tell you? I mean, that's amazing.
He's hitting the hole so much faster, so much more decisive. He looks like the better running back. And this was a guy that I was, again, not very big on this year, kind of like Quan. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I love Tony Pollard. Alexander Mattison, only because Cook went out twice last week, looked a little banged up. He's okay, but if you have Cook or if Madison's available, this is a guy that never plays a full 16 seasons. I would grab Matterson, and he's only rostered in 33% of leagues. Sony Michel, now he's rostered in a lot of leagues, but he came in, looked really, really, really good, actually, and replacing Darrell Henderson when he went out. Darrell Henderson is the guy, and there's still going to be news. He's just got a little bit of rib cartilage, not damaged, they're saying.
Problem. He's only got a little bit of rib cartilage.
Yeah, exactly. And he's oft injured is the problem. So if Michelle is somehow available, definitely go after him. He's worth a little bit of the bid money too, because he did look good, and that is a phenomenal offensive line and a really good running team. And Henderson gets banged up. Here's a really interesting pickup, and it's Cordarrelle Patterson. Here's a guy that's wide receiver converted to running back, and this is another 1A, 1B situation. He's getting as much work right now as Mike Davis and being really productive with it. I don't love that team. I don't love their run game, but if you're really in need, you're looking for someone to pick up and you're nursing injuries, you could do worse. I mean, he didn't do bad. He had 7 carries for 11 yards. He got a touchdown. That's helpful, but he also had 6 targets, 5 grabs for 58 yards and a touchdown there as well. He put up just shy of 24 points last week. And I mean, Davis is a good receiving running back as well, but they're using them both. And this is a team that's going to be throwing to the running back a lot. Another very interesting.
Is it Cordarrelle or Cordarrelle? Do we know?
I've heard of both. It's Cordarrelle, or maybe it's Cordero.
I think it's Cordarrelle. It's
Cordero. Okay. Cordero. Maybe. We'll go with Cordero.
So they now have him listed as a running back, I believe, on
ESPN.
Yeah, because I know we got a message from my commissioner in one of my leagues today saying I'm switching him from wide receiver to running back because that's how they have it listed.
Yep. 2 more guys I got to talk about. One of them, he's available in a lot of leagues as well, is Michael Carter. I mean, barf. He's a Jet, but he definitely looks like the best running back on that team. 11 totes, almost 60 yards. He looked really good. And I think as the season goes on, if he's still available, he's going to continue and blossom and bloom as the lead back in that offense. Here's one last guy to mention. Most people have never heard of this guy, but unless you were watching the XFL, and this is Jacques Patrick. This guy is a beast. He's 6'3", 236 pounds, put up monster numbers in the amount of games that he played in the XFL. The Niners just picked him up because they lost Sermon to a concussion. Hasty's got a high ankle sprain. My $32 Eli Mitchell, he's got a little bit of damage. They think he's going to play. I think he's going to be fine. But this is the kind of guy that Kyle Shanahan loves, that big, bruising north-south runner. And the way Niner running backs get hurt, I know they have Trenton Cannon, but I think it looks like it's going to be Eli Mitchell and Jacques Patrick. A lot of people don't know about this guy. You could probably get him on the cheap. He's a very good pickup in that Niners backfield.
They don't know about him for a reason. So,
no, I mean, who are they going to run?
I believe that it's almost like, do you have stock in the 49ers?
It is a Kyle Shanahan offense that is always one of the best running teams in the NFL. They consistently lead the league in rushing, but they also consistently lead the league in injured running backs. So, and they've got a good defense, and they've got Garoppolo's looking good. They're staying in games. So, if you can get him cheap and you can get a piece of that running game, I say grab it.
How good in that amazing running game did Mitchell do last week?
Okay, so are you going to tell me Miles Sanders isn't good?
No, he's not.
Well, hold on. There was Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is good. Okay,
But,
he sucked last week.
he's proven it. Don't compare Eli to Taylor.
Okay, so wait a minute.
What's wrong with you?
Wait. Eli
Banned from the
Mitchell's had
show.
2 games. Eli Mitchell's had 2 games, and in one of them, he went for over 100 and a touchdown. And last week against a pretty good Chargers defense, he did it. So he's kind of proved it as well. Talk to me in 6 or 7 or 8 games.
Okay,
I prefer not to. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the running back pickups, including the one from the XFL. Brad, you got wide receivers tonight?
I do. So,
do you have anybody that played maybe in the WFL?
He hate me. Oh no,
Is he on San Francisco now too?
Yeah, they just picked him up.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
Oh, it will.
Where'd you draft Koo? Like the 4th round?
All right.
No, actually.
So there,
you're right.
There
it was 14th round, but okay.
There are a few wide receivers that you can get and stash on your roster. We know wide receivers are deep. There's also some injuries that make other people a little more, like an OBJ who's maybe going to play this week, right? He's maybe going to play week 1, week 2. He's definitely looking like it. But now with Jarvis Landry, his injury, it gives OBJ, if you can pick him up, certainly a bump, right? So there. KJ Osborne in Minnesota. I talked about him last week. He's got a total of 15 targets through the first 2 weeks. His numbers so far are better than Justin Jefferson. Now, I'm not saying that's going to continue, but they certainly have the openings to get it to this guy. He has a nice long touchdown, a 64, 65-yard touchdown catch. It's a guy to get on your roster.
Yeah.
They're going to be using him. They don't really have a tight end there. So they're using that 3 receiver set. I think he was in for 80. Did I read 80% of the plays? So that's pretty good. You have someone that's getting targets. Obviously, we talked about him, Rondo Moore. He's a top 15 wide receiver right now. He's ahead of Christian Kirk, and he's ahead of Hopkins. Again, will that continue? Probably not. It will level out a little bit, but it's the same situation as in Minnesota. He's getting the targets. He's got 13 targets and 182 yards so far through 2 games. Not so
watching
bad
him play, it's like playing Madden. That kid is so good.
He's like a video game. Yeah, he's very fast, very
like Frogger,
shifty. Yeah, it's fun to watch. But again, with having those other guys on the team, these guys are open. Osborne and Rondo Moore, they have openings on the field. So definitely roster him if you can, if you have room on your roster. Hunter Renfro, right? Not super exciting. I'm getting a lot of feedback. Hunter Renfro, he just kind of does it week in, week out. He's averaging 8 targets per game through the first 2 weeks. Right, he doesn't have a touchdown yet, so his numbers aren't flying off the charts, but he's getting the targets, right? And we know that Derek Carr is having a really nice year so far through 2 games, leading the league. So there's opportunity there for Hunter Renfro. Again, he's going to be a wide receiver 3 for you, or maybe a flex, if you need someone, if you need a fill-in. Cephas, Quatez. Quintez. Cephas in Detroit. He had 4 for 63 and a touchdown. He had 7 targets. Besides Hawkinson, he's the guy in Detroit. Yeah. So again, they basically have 2 receivers as options, right? Hawkinson and Cephas right now.
Right, and then the running backs.
And then the running backs are their other options for receiver, right? So he's looking like the guy. He's got a good rapport with Goff so far. We know they're always throwing because they're behind. So it's a nice pickup stash. You're going to be using him if you have a bye week, if you need a 3rd receiver, different types of scenarios, but he's a good option to have there. So those are 4 guys. I also like Zach Pasquel in Indy. He's, not exciting, but he's getting a lot of looks.
Yep.
And, now with Wentz out, who knows what's going to happen there. But again, they, on teams, they have to throw to someone.
Well, there's one more you might want to add, just with Landry going down and the uncertainty with OBJ, and it's may the Schwartz be with you. They really like that kid. He looked good in the preseason, and he actually had a halfway decent first week. That they're going to need someone opposite OBJ, even if he's in. So I like him as well as a wideout.
Okay,
All
fair
right.
enough. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. What about tight ends?
Tight ends is so subjective, and some leagues group them in, and there's
not a lot out there. I mean, we got Higbee out there, right?
Tyler Higbee. Obviously, if Tanyam wasn't rostered, he is rostered a lot. He had a good game last night, so you want to pick him up. Gesicki had some looks this week, so people might have gone south on him after week 1 with zero. Not that you're dropping him, but maybe he's out there. There's just not, Dalton Schultz maybe in Dallas.
Max Williams is someone to take a look at, though.
Well, I will tell you that for people
in Arizona, yeah, he had a good game.
I will tell you that Jared Cook and Jack Doyle, we haven't talked about Jack Doyle at all in years.
Yeah.
But Jack Doyle with Indianapolis has already 12 targets. He's not necessarily the red zone target. Jared Cook has 13 targets. These guys aren't necessarily red zone guys, but they're getting yards, they're getting catches. If you're in a PPR and you need a tight end, you're not, I think someone like Doyle or Cook, Jonu's probably gone. I think aren't bad options. Even Austin Hooper, right? Who we have totally forgotten about after he left Atlanta.
Right.
So until OBJ comes back too, Hooper is definitely somebody to take a look at. On the defensive side, guys, there's not a lot out there. Defense is kind of a streaming thing. So we're going to look week to week to see what's the potential. What do we got as a projected good defense this week? And I hate to say it, but it looks like the Raiders against Miami. Raiders are available in just about everyone's league right now.
Yeah.
But they're playing against Miami. The Titans are playing against Indianapolis. The Giants are playing against Atlanta. Atlanta has the 30th ranked offense right now. The Giants have shown signs of being, a good defense. So you can stream the Giants, you can stream the Titans, you can stream the Raiders this week. Those are all.
And I'll tell you what I'm surprised is out there. They're the number 1 defense in football from a fantasy perspective right now, and it's Carolina, and they're going up against the Jeff Driscoll-led Houston Texans. So if somehow the Panthers are available
without Tyrod Taylor,
with Jeff Driscoll, it's going to be as the quarterback.
Yeah.
And how much are you spending on that?
$31.
30. Okay. All right. Well, it looks like we don't have any other questions for tonight. I don't know if you guys have any other waiver pickups, but it looks like we're done. We're done a little early. One of the
things we were talking about doing was who are we holding on and who are we panicking on? And there's a few guys just to bring up here. For me, who to hold tight on and not freak out about. My first one is Justin Jefferson. You could say, well, if you look at his numbers, there's nothing to freak out about. But from where he was being drafted as one of the 5th, 6th, or 7th receivers off the board. And his numbers are certainly not playing that out as of yet. A lot of that has to do with KJ Osborne. But one of the things you want to look at is the targets are still there. He's still a favorite target. Absolutely. Here's what I was looking for. He still got 9 targets week 1, 10 targets week 2. He did get a touchdown week 2, but he's not getting necessarily the yards yet. But I really believe they're going to come. There's another mouth to feed that they didn't have before in KJ Osborne, but definitely don't panic on Justin Jefferson. He's not giving you wide receiver 1 numbers right now. It's a little more like wide receiver 2. And if you drafted him as your 1, just hold on because he's such a talent. And the way that defense is giving up points in the shootouts, I believe it's going to be there.
What about Josh Allen, guys? He's the 20th ranked quarterback right now.
Yep.
What do you do? I mean, obviously, do you start him every week regardless of who you have, unless, of course, you have, Mahomes or Lamar or Dak?
Right.
or Kyler Murray.
So I had Jefferson as my as one of my don't panics. Josh Allen I put on as panic. I mean,
Me too.
He has not looked good through two. He looks like 2019 Josh
That's
Allen,
right.
not 2020 Josh Allen. And certainly that's worrisome. Can they right that ship a little bit? Of course. But I mean, he's only about a 60% completion rate right now, which is awful. Right? He's 47
84 passes
for 84.
47 exactly. Yep.
Yeah, you're right. He's the number 20 QB right now. He doesn't even, he's got 450 yards, which was like one game for him last year. Now that's through 2 games. And he's got 79 yards rushing through 2 games, which isn't bad. That's fine. But I would try to stream or get on your roster one of the other guys that the Commish talked about earlier, right? Derek Carr, if he's out there, or one of these guys. And, it's you have to be a little worried right now.
I got to tell you, it is very telling that the Bills dropped 35 points on the Dolphins, and Josh Allen did not have a good week. They literally were having their way, that offensive line with the Dolphins defensive line. And this is a team that likes to put the pressure down, keep throwing, keep pushing, keep pressing. And I think you nailed it, Cyclop. He's looking like 2019 Josh Allen. So it's the second week, so you're not going to freak out about it. But if what we see continues, you got problems, because this guy was a second or third round draft pick. So I happen to agree with you. He was a panic button for me as well.
Who does he play this week? Do you have that?
Buffalo. I don't have that handy.
Okay. We can look that up in a second. We do have a question here. Panic on Galladay.
On Kenny Galladay?
No, I don't think so.
You don't panic on him. You don't. You may not get what you drafted him to be if you drafted him high, but he still has the second most amount of targets on the Giants right now behind Shepard. Slayton's right up there near him. It's just that he's not getting touchdowns. He's not getting yards, but they're throwing the ball to him a lot. He's dropped quite a few, actually. They're still developing that chemistry between him and Danny Dimes. I'm not too concerned about it right now. Again, if you have alternatives to start instead of him, I would do that. He's not a must start by any stretch of the imagination, like he was before he got hurt when he was in Detroit.
Right.
But I wouldn't panic on him.
Well, he's gone up against a couple tough defenses the first few weeks. So if there's any week that you can get it right, it's this week against Atlanta. Right?
Yeah, this is true.
So keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on him this week. See what he does. See how it plays out, and then start to think more about it.
Yeah.
What about Saquon, guys? Since we're on the Giants, are we worried? He's right now ranked as the 45th best running back in the league, which means he wouldn't even necessarily be on a roster. Are we panicking on Saquon? Do you start him every week? Do you drop him? What do you do with Saquon?
I don't know how you don't start him. And he's got let me tell you something right now. He has a get-right game coming up against Atlanta. So, and to me, honestly, so his numbers last week, 13 for 57. The week before, 10 attempts, 26 yards. He's not getting a lot of grabs either. So he's got the get-right game coming up. I personally really didn't want any part of him going into the season. If I have Quan and you get that get-right game out of Atlanta, it is a good opportunity and a good time to trade him if you can, and that's personally what I would be doing.
Yeah, if you can get anything for him right now, if you have him, either you sell and try to get something, or try to get him and buy low. Maybe you can get him for a wide receiver 2 or something like that, and see how it plays out. But if you can buy low on him, it's not necessarily a bad idea.
I tried to get him in our league, and the person who owned him actually wanted my number 1 receiver. And there's just, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Gotta look up and see who has him in our league.
Wait for this week and then sell him at a little bit of a premium.
Let's put it this way. He was probably high. So let's just,
Oh,
let's
God,
just
yeah.
leave it at that.
Yeah. I see. I see who has him.
Here's another guy to not panic on, and that's A.J. Brown. Clearly drafted as a wide receiver 1, definitely not performing up to what we were expecting. He saved his week 1 with a touchdown, but what I like, he actually is getting more targets this year than he was getting last year. It's just unfortunately Tannehill had a really bad week 1. A.J. Brown, he had 8 targets week 1, 9 targets week 2. Yes, Julio did all the damage in this last week against Seattle, but don't panic. At 17 targets in 2 weeks, A.J. Brown has his ups and downs. By the end of the year, A.J. Brown's going to be A.J. Brown. I wouldn't panic on him.
All right.
So awesome.
Well, sounds good, guys.
And we talked about Zeke and Pollard already, so we don't need to go back into that. But yes, you do want to panic there.
Yeah.
And panic if you have Hilaire. Like literally freak out if you have Hilaire.
Okay. All right. That'll be it for us for tonight. We are going to be back Sunday morning. Although, Brad, you said you probably will not be able to.
I will not be available Sunday morning. No.
Okay.
I'll be 3 hours earlier, so it's not going to be.
So we may or may not be available Sunday morning, but if we are, we will go through who to start, who to bench moving into the week, some of the latest news, actives, inactives. So follow us there. And if you have any questions in the meantime, go ahead and post it YouTube Live or Facebook Live, and we will answer them on the next show. But thanks everybody for asking all the questions, and Michael and James and Breck. We really appreciate the feedback, and Kenneth, of course. So thank you very much, guys. Any final words?
No, I went from 5-1 week 1 in my 6 leagues to 1-5. That tells you how fantasy football.
That's fantasy
can
football.
Switch that fast. So hopefully it'll be a back to a 5-1 this week, and we'll see how it goes. But yes, fun show, fun week. Looking forward to this week's games.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.